On the night I turned 18, my dad pulled me aside at my own birthday party and whispered 4 words that were supposed to end everything. Just sign the papers. He meant the cabin. The one my grandparents built. The one I'd been quietly maintaining every weekend for 2 years while my father and his brother planned to sell it behind my back. He smiled. I smiled back. Then I walked into the kitchen, opened my laptop, and confirmed that 6 years ago, my grandparents had already made sure there was nothing left to sign. The cabin was mine. It had been mine the whole time. By morning, my father had turned white. My uncle, who had already signed a purchase agreement to sell property he didn't own, was on the phone with a lawyer. And I was eating cereal. This is the story of what my grandparents built when they realized their sons couldn't be trusted. And what it cost everyone when the truth finally came out. I was 12 the first time Grandpa Harold drove me to Cedar Lake. 40 minutes in his pickup truck. White pines so tall they blocked the afternoon sun. A porch that sagged on one side. A screen door that never latched right. And a smell I still can't fully name, wood smoke, old books, and something sweet that lives in the walls. We spent that morning replacing 3 rotted fence posts. Grandpa didn't rush me. He showed me how to press my thumb into the grain. If it gives, it's done. Grandma Vivian had iced tea and sandwiches waiting on the kitchen table, the table Grandpa built himself the year they got married. That afternoon, she and I sat on the porch and watched the lake until the light turned gold. That evening, Grandpa wiped sawdust off his hands and said something I didn't understand until years later. This cabin stays in the family. But family isn't always blood, Iris. Family is whoever shows up. I thought he was being poetic. I spent every weekend that summer at Cedar Lake. I learned which window stuck, where the water heater leaked, how to bleed the radiator. Grandpa walked me to every iron stake marking the property line, stakes he'd hammered in himself. I didn't know he was already talking to a lawyer about this place. About me. Our house in Ridgemont was fine. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a garage my dad Greg used as an office for his building supply store. Fine, not warm. Just fine. My sister Kelsey was 10. She had the bigger bedroom. Freshly redecorated. Lavender walls, a desk lamp worth more than my entire bookshelf. My room still had carpet from the previous owners. One dinner stands out. My dad was cutting his steak when he said it. That property is just sitting there losing value. Property taxes alone are killing us. We should sell it, reinvest. My mom Denise nodded. Makes sense. Grandpa said the cabin stays in the family, I said. My dad laughed. Not a mean laugh. Worse, a dismissive one. You were 12, Iris. He was being nice. The conversation moved on to Kelsey's debate trophy. Regional finalist. Very impressive. Denise had already framed the certificate. I had won the district science fair 2 weeks earlier. The ribbon was still in my backpack. After dinner, clearing the plates, I found something half hidden under a grocery list on the counter. A glossy flyer. Ridgeline Development. Lakefront lots. Premium prices, now acquiring. A handwritten phone number in the margin. Not my dad's handwriting. I put the flyer back exactly where I found it. Upstairs, I sat on my bed and thought about Grandma's kitchen table. The one where she set my sandwich without asking because she already knew what I wanted. Someone was already measuring my grandparents' home in dollar signs. Grandpa Harold died when I was 14. Tuesday funeral. Gray sky, damp grass, folding chairs sinking into the lawn. At the reception, I watched my dad Greg and his brother Wade standing by the dessert table. Not eating. Talking low. Wade had a folder tucked under his arm. I caught one sentence. We should move on this before probate gets complicated. They were talking about the cabin at the funeral. I was 14. I had no power, no voice, and no idea my grandfather had already accounted for that exact moment. 2 years later, Grandma Vivian got sick in March and was gone by June. The last time I visited, she held my hand. Her grip was surprisingly firm. The cabin is yours, Iris. Don't let them take it. Promise me. I promise, Grandma. She squeezed once and closed her eyes. After her funeral, another gray day, same folding chairs, my dad sat at the kitchen table and said to my mom, "Now we can finally sort out the property." He said it with relief. Like something heavy had lifted. That same evening, Wade called. I heard Greg on the phone in the garage, pacing. "Yeah, no, let's get it moving." His voice was lighter than it had been in weeks. I stood in the hallway holding a glass of water and understood something that settled in my chest like a stone. My grandmother's death wasn't a loss to them. It was a clearance. I didn't cry that night. I made a different kind of decision. Between 16 and almost 18, the cabin became my quiet rebellion. Every Saturday morning I drove out to Cedar Lake in the used Honda I'd bought with babysitting money. I patched the porch screen. Replaced the weather stripping on the back door. Swept pine needles off the roof because Grandpa taught me that's how leaks start. At home, the language shifted. The cabin stopped being Grandpa's place and became the family property. Greg said it at dinner like it had always been true. Wade showed up more often, every other Sunday, sometimes with manila folders, sometimes with a laptop open to real estate listings. I tried once. "What about Grandma's wish?" "She wanted me to keep it." Denise set her fork down gently, the way she did before correcting Kelsey's homework. "Your grandma was emotional at the end, sweetie. This is business." Business. The word they used for everything that used to be love. By 17, Greg stopped being subtle. "When you turn 18, we'll figure this out as a family." The way he said family, I knew he meant his way. One November afternoon, alone at the cabin, I was clearing out the hall closet. Behind a stack of old quilts, I found a sealed envelope in Grandma Vivian's handwriting. My name on the front. Inside, a single business card. Margaret Caldwell, attorney at law. Below her name, in small print, Tmain Family Trust. My hand shook. Not from fear, from recognition. Grandma left this here for me to find. She knew I'd be the one cleaning out closets. Not Greg. Not Wade. Me. I slipped the card into my wallet. I didn't call. Not yet. 3 months before my 18th birthday, Margaret Caldwell called me first. Thursday evening in February. I was doing calculus homework when an unknown local number appeared on my phone. "Iris, this is Margaret Caldwell. I was your grandparents' attorney. I need to speak with you before your birthday. There are things you need to know, and there isn't much time." She told me to meet her the following Saturday. Alone. Margaret was in her late 50s. Silver-haired, reading glasses on a chain. Her office smelled like old paper and coffee. She sat across from me and opened a folder. "Your grandparents hired me 6 years ago. They established an irrevocable trust, the cabin, a savings account, and an investment portfolio. Total value approximately $2.1 million. All of it held in trust. You are the sole beneficiary." The room tilted. They transferred it into the trust while they were alive. It never entered their estate. It can't go through probate. Your father and uncle have no claim. She slid a document across the desk. My name on the second line. The cabin's title had been recorded under the trust at the county recorder's office 6 years ago. Your father doesn't know that. Why didn't they tell him? Margaret paused. Your grandfather said, and these are his words, "My sons will sell that cabin before the funeral flowers wilt." The room was very quiet. Then she told me something else. Someone had been making inquiries at the county recorder's office about the cabin's title, within the last month. I started paying attention after that meeting. Quietly. The next Sunday, Wade came for dinner. Afterward, he and Greg disappeared into the garage. The door was open a crack, not enough to see, but enough to hear. I already signed the purchase agreement with Ridgeline. $450,000. But we need the title clean before closing. How do we get it clean? Quitclaim deed. Dad's gone. Mom's gone. We're the legal heirs. We quitclaim the property to ourselves, record it, and sell. Is that legal? It's a standard real estate transfer between heirs. Nobody's going to question it. A pause. Then Greg, quieter, what about Iris? My chest tightened. Wade's answer came fast, like he'd rehearsed it. She's 17, Greg. She can't do anything. And by the time she's 18, the sale goes through. Done deal. She'll be upset. She'll get over it. We'll give her a cut, 50 grand for college. She should be grateful. I stepped back from the door. Wade had already signed a purchase agreement, $450,000, with a development company. For a cabin he didn't own. On land held in a trust he didn't know existed. He had bet nearly $500,000 on a piece of paper that wasn't his. That night, I texted Margaret 2 words, "They're accelerating." Her reply came in 3 minutes, "I expected that. Come Saturday. We'll prepare everything." My dad announced he was throwing me a birthday party. Whole family. Saturday night. He smiled. Denise smiled. Kelsey clapped. My dad was planning my birthday party. My uncle was planning to sell my grandmother's cabin. And I was sitting at the kitchen table smiling, because in 9 days, I was going to let them think everything was going exactly according to their plan. That week, Denise sat beside me on the couch, her let's talk like adults voice, soft and practiced. The cabin costs money to maintain. Taxes, insurance, repairs. Your dad's business has been struggling. If we sell, we could pay off the debt and set up college funds for you and Kelsey. Grandma wanted me to keep it. A flash of impatience, quickly smoothed. Your grandma was very sentimental at the end. But sentiment doesn't pay property taxes. Greg walked in right on cue. I've already talked to a buyer. Good price. Fair deal. Who's the buyer? A development company. Wade knows them. What company? A longer pause. Ridgeline something. I didn't push further. I'll think about it. Greg patted my shoulder. That's my girl. He walked away satisfied, like he'd just closed a deal. 3 days before my birthday, Wade cornered me in the driveway. Casual clothes, big smile, nothing he does is accidental. That lake lot is worth $450,000. I can get us a fast close. And you get $50,000 for college. 50 out of 450. He smiled like I'd said something cute. You're 18, Iris. 50 grand is a lot of money for someone your age. Most kids would jump at that. Whose name is on the deed, Uncle Wade? The smile froze. Just for a second, a flicker, then it was back. Your grandparents. But they're gone. Passes to your dad and me as next of kin. That's not how it works. He knew that. He sells houses for a living. He was counting on me not knowing. Don't overthink this, Iris. Opportunities like this don't wait. He drove away. Before he reached the end of the street, he was already on the phone. That night, I texted Margaret again. They're accelerating. Stay the course. 3 more days. The night before my birthday, I drove to the cabin alone. Cedar Lake sat flat and dark under a half moon. I parked in the gravel patch Grandpa leveled himself. Sat in the chair next to the one that used to be his. Margaret had emailed the full document package, the acceptance of successor beneficiary form, the trust summary, everything flagged and ready for a signature. My signature. At midnight, I read each document twice. Then I closed my laptop and listened to the lake. Grandpa used to sit in that chair and say, "Patience isn't weakness, Iris. It's timing." I always thought he was talking about fishing. The tears came without warning. Not a collapse, just a quiet overflow I let happen. I cried because I wished it were different. I wished my dad had been the kind of man who would have taken me fishing at this lake instead of calculating its resale value. I wished my mom had asked me what I wanted instead of telling me what was practical. I wished I didn't have to sign a legal document at midnight to protect myself from the people who were supposed to protect me. But wishes don't hold up in court. Trust documents do. I wiped my face. Locked the cabin. Drove home. At 11:50 p.m., I opened my laptop and joined the video call. Margaret appeared in her home office, reading glasses on, desk lamp glowing. Ready? Ready. When the clock hit midnight, I signed. 1 page. My name in ink. My grandparents' names in print above mine. First thing tomorrow morning, Margaret said, 8 a.m., I'll file a lease pendants at the county recorder's office. Public notice of legal interest on the property. Once it's recorded, no one can sell, transfer, or encumber the title while it's active. The clock on my laptop read 12:03 a.m. I was 18. I was the legal beneficiary of the Tmain family irrevocable trust. And somewhere across town, my uncle's quitclaim deed was already a dead document. He just didn't know it yet. The county recorder's office opens at 8 a.m. Fluorescent lights flicker on. A clerk in a blue cardigan unlocks the front counter. Margaret Caldwell is the first person through the door. She presents 2 documents, the certified trust and the lease pendants, and asks for them to be recorded against the Cedar Lake property. The clerk reviews them, checks the title records, and stamps them, recorded. From that moment, anyone who pulls the title will see it clearly, Tmain Family Irrevocable Trust. Margaret Caldwell, trustee. Iris Tmain, beneficiary. At 8:14 a.m., my phone buzzes. It's done. I'm sitting at the kitchen table eating cereal. Greg is upstairs getting dressed. Denise is making coffee. Normal morning sounds. Water running. A closet door. The clink of a belt buckle. At 8:30, Greg and Wade come downstairs together. Greg is wearing his business shirt, the one he wore to bank meetings before the store went under. Wade has the folder. Same folder as always. We'll be back by lunch, Greg says, grabbing his keys. I look up. Good luck. Something in my voice makes him pause. He looks at me for a moment, then turns and walks out. At 9:05 a.m., Wade approaches the recorder's counter with his quitclaim deed and a confident handshake. The clerk takes the document. Types the parcel number. Reads the screen. Types again. Then she stops. I can't record this document, sir. Excuse me? The property title is held under the Tmain Family Irrevocable Trust, recorded in 2020. There's also a lease pendants filed this morning. That's impossible. My parents owned that property. Sir, the deed was transferred to the trust 6 years ago. The chain of title is clear. This quitclaim doesn't match the current ownership record. Greg steps forward. There's no trust. Our parents never mentioned a trust. I'd recommend you speak with the trustee listed on the filing. A Margaret Caldwell. Wade's hand goes flat on the counter. His face drains. Margaret's name, the same name on the business card they'd found in my bag, was now on a public record they couldn't erase. Greg turned to Wade slowly. You said this was simple. I didn't know about any trust. You're a real estate agent, Wade. How did you not check the title first? Wade opened his mouth. Closed it. Margaret, seated in the waiting area near the door, watched them leave. She didn't say a word. She didn't need to. At 9:22 a.m., my phone rang. Greg's voice, tight, shaking, traffic in the background. What did you do? I accepted what Grandpa and Grandma left me. That's all. You went behind our backs with some lawyer we've never heard of. Margaret Caldwell has been the trust attorney for 6 years, Dad. You just never asked. Heavy breathing. This is my parents' property. I'm their son. They chose to leave it to me. Not because they didn't love you, but because they didn't trust you with it. The longest silence of my life. I counted 3 full arcs of the neighbor's sprinkler before he spoke again. We'll fight this. You can try. But the trust is irrevocable. There's nothing for anyone to undo. He hung up. No goodbye. Just a click and dead air. My hands were shaking. Not from anger, not from fear, from the weight of saying those words to my own father. From knowing that the man who taught me to ride a bike when I was 6 is the same man who just tried to sell my grandmother's home out from under me. That afternoon, Margaret called with one final piece of information. Iris, the quitclaim deed Wade tried to file had a notary stamp. I had the recorder's office pull a copy. The stamp doesn't match any registered notary in the county. It appears to be forged. That's a felony, isn't it? In this state? Yes. My uncle didn't just try to steal my cabin. He committed a crime to do it. Over the following weeks, the consequences fell one by one. Ridgeline Development filed a civil suit against Wade, $45,000 in penalties plus damages. His real estate license was suspended. The district attorney opened an investigation into the forged notary stamp. Greg didn't contest the trust. The legal fees would have buried him. Instead, he sold the building supply store at a loss and negotiated a repayment plan with the bank. Denise went back to work for the first time in a decade. Wade settled with Ridgeline. The deal died. The criminal referral stayed open. I enrolled at Ridgemont Community College, environmental science, minor in forestry. The campus is 20 minutes from the cabin. On my housing forms, under current address, I wrote the cabin's address for the first time. It felt like coming home. Because it was. Before I moved in, I found one more thing, in the desk drawer by the window. An envelope in Grandpa Harold's handwriting. My name on the front. Margaret had been saving it for after everything was settled. One page, written in blue ink, his handwriting getting looser toward the bottom the way it always did when he was tired. He told me he knew his sons would try to sell the cabin. He didn't blame them. Greg was his boy, and he loved him. But Greg never understood the difference between something that has value and something that's valuable. He said he chose me not because I was perfect, but because I was the one who asked whether the roof needed patching before I ever asked what the place was worth. The last line read, "Take care of it. It took care of you first." I didn't win against my family. There's no winning when the people who hurt you are the people who were supposed to protect you. You don't get a trophy for surviving something that should never have happened in the first place. But I kept a promise. And for the first time in my life, I'm standing somewhere that belongs to me, not because I fought for it, but because two people loved me enough to plan for exactly this. They saw the storm before I did. They built the shelter before I knew I'd need one. My grandparents couldn't stop my parents from being who they are. They couldn't make Greg less desperate or Denise less afraid. They couldn't keep Wade from chasing money that wasn't his. But they could make sure I had ground to stand on. Literally. If you're listening to this and you feel like nobody's in your corner, hear me. Sometimes the people who protect you aren't the ones standing in front of you. Sometimes they planned for you years ago, quietly, without telling anyone. And sometimes all you have to do is show up, sign the paper, and keep the promise. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that bell icon. Because more stories like this are coming, and you don't want to miss them.